The 2,000-year-old computer that shouldn't exist. Imagine diving nearly 200 feet beneath the Mediterranean Sea. The sunlight fades, the water grows cold, and everything becomes quiet. It's the spring of 1900. You're a Greek sponge diver searching the seafloor near a tiny island called Antikythera. You've made dives like this many times before. You're expecting little more than sponges and scattered rocks. Instead, a giant bronze arm emerges from the darkness, then a marble face, then another statue. You're staring at the remains of an ancient Roman shipwreck that has rested untouched for nearly 2,000 years. The divers recover magnificent treasures: bronze statues, marble sculptures, elegant glassware, jewelry, fine pottery. Every object tells the story of a wealthy civilization. But among all these priceless artifacts, one small object receives almost no attention. It's a lump of bronze and stone, cracked, corroded, completely covered by centuries of marine deposits. It doesn't look valuable. It doesn't look important. In fact, it almost gets forgotten. The artifact is placed inside the National Archaeological Museum in Athens. There it sits, quietly, for nearly 2 years. Then, something extraordinary happens. In 1902, an archaeologist notices a tiny bronze gear protruding from one broken fragment. A gear, not decoration and not a simple wheel, a precision-cut bronze gear. Inside an object recovered from a ship that sank over 2,000 years ago. At first, no one can explain it. Ancient civilizations built magnificent temples. They carved breathtaking statues. They raised enormous monuments. But precision gears, interlocking mechanical components? Nothing like this was supposed to exist, as researchers carefully separate the fragments. More gears begin to appear, then more. Tiny bronze teeth, perfectly shaped, carefully engineered. The forgotten lump of corroded metal suddenly becomes one of the greatest archaeological discoveries in history. Because hidden inside wasn't just another ancient artifact. It was a machine. And not just any machine, a machine so sophisticated that even today, scientists continue studying it with advanced imaging technology to understand exactly how it worked. Its name is the Antikythera Mechanism. Today, it is recognized as the world's oldest known analog computer. But perhaps the most astonishing part isn't what it did, it's when it was built. Most evidence indicates the mechanism was constructed sometime between 150 and 100 BC. Think about that. More than a century before the Roman Empire reached its greatest power. More than 1,400 years before Europe's great astronomical clocks. Someone had already built a device filled with precision-cut bronze gears. A machine capable of calculating the movements of the heavens. How was that possible? Who built it? And perhaps the biggest question of all. If the ancient Greeks possessed technology this sophisticated, why don't we have dozens of these machines today? The answer reveals something surprising about history itself, because history isn't simply a story of constant progress. Sometimes, history forgets. The machine that predicted the heavens. So, what exactly was hidden inside this extraordinary machine? Imagine opening a wooden box about the size of a modern shoebox. Bronze dials cover the front. Fine Greek inscriptions surround carefully crafted pointers. A small hand crank extends from one side. At first glance, it doesn't seem remarkable, until you turn the handle. Instantly, the gears come alive. Some spin quickly. Others move so slowly they're almost impossible to notice. Each gear drives another, through precise mathematical ratios. One turn of the crank sets an entire mechanical universe into motion. This wasn't simply measuring time. It was calculating the heavens. The front of the mechanism displayed the ancient Greek cosmos. One pointer followed the sun. Another tracked the moon. Evidence from surviving inscriptions strongly suggests it also displayed the 5 planets visible to the naked eye: Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. Imagine watching it over 2,000 years ago. Days become months, months become years. The heavens move before your eyes. For perhaps the first time in history, someone could hold a working model of the cosmos in their hands. Then researchers uncovered something even more astonishing. The moon doesn't travel across our sky at a perfectly constant speed. Sometimes it moves slightly faster, sometimes slightly slower. Ancient Greek astronomers understood this. The builders of the Antikythera Mechanism did too. Hidden inside, an ingenious arrangement of bronze gears reproduced the moon's changing motion with remarkable accuracy. Think about that. Someone wasn't simply building machinery. Someone was transforming mathematics into motion. And then came one final surprise. Attached to the moon's pointer was a tiny rotating sphere, half black, half white. As the gears turned, the sphere slowly rotated, revealing the changing phases of the moon. No electricity, no electronics, no software, just bronze, geometry, and extraordinary craftsmanship. But perhaps its greatest achievement was predicting eclipses. For ancient civilizations, few events inspired more fear than the sudden darkening of the sun. Many saw eclipses as warnings from the gods. Others believed they foretold disaster. The builders of this machine saw something different, a pattern. Hidden on the back were spiral dials that tracked repeating astronomical cycles discovered through centuries of careful observation. Turn the crank, advance the years, and the mechanism could indicate when future eclipses were expected, not through magic, not through prophecy, through mathematics. That simple distinction changed everything. Then researchers noticed something they never expected. Among the inscriptions were references to the Olympic Games. Why would a machine that tracked the heavens also keep track of athletic festivals? Because to the ancient Greeks, time governed everything. Religious celebrations, harvests, navigation, politics, competition. Understanding the rhythms of the sky meant understanding the rhythms of civilization itself. The Antikythera Mechanism wasn't merely an astronomical calculator. It was a machine built to reveal order within an apparently chaotic universe. By now, one thing had become unmistakably clear. This wasn't the work of a curious inventor experimenting alone. It was the product of an advanced scientific tradition, which raises an even bigger mystery. If ancient engineers could build something this sophisticated, what happened to the knowledge that made it possible? Because after this remarkable machine, history grows strangely quiet. The knowledge that almost disappeared. If the ancient Greeks could build a machine like this, why don't museums have hundreds of them? The answer is both simple and unsettling. History is not a complete record of the past. It's a collection of survivors. Everything we know about the ancient world depends on what escaped war, fire, time, and human hands. The Antikythera Mechanism survived because of an accident, a shipwreck. Think about what it took to build this machine. Someone had to understand astronomy. Someone had to calculate precise mathematical relationships. Someone had to design dozens of interlocking gears. Someone had to manufacture them by hand. No civilization creates something like this overnight. Achievements like this grow across generations. Teachers pass knowledge to students. Master craftsmen train apprentices. Engineers improve upon the work of those who came before. The Antikythera Mechanism wasn't the beginning of that story. It was the result of it, which means something remarkable. This almost certainly wasn't the only one. So, where did they all go? Ironically, the greatest threat wasn't invasion, it wasn't disaster, and it wasn't even time. It was value. Bronze was precious. Nothing was wasted. Old statues became new statues. Broken tools became new tools. Damaged machines became raw material. Again, and again, and again. Had the ship completed its journey on, the mechanism would probably have been dismantled. Its bronze melted down, its gears erased forever. Instead, the sea protected what civilization nearly destroyed. The mechanism was built during the Hellenistic Age, one of history's greatest centers of scientific discovery. Astronomers studied the heavens with extraordinary precision. Mathematicians searched for hidden patterns. Engineers transformed ideas into machines. Knowledge moved across the Mediterranean, from teacher to student, from workshop to workshop. But civilizations change, wars interrupt learning, libraries disappear, economic priorities shift. When knowledge is no longer preserved, it slowly fades, not because people become less intelligent, but because every generation begins with only what the last generation leaves behind. Now imagine, if that Roman ship had reached its destination, its cargo unloaded, its bronze eventually recycled, its wooden case reduced to dust. No fragments, no gears, and no discovery. We might never have known that ancient engineers possessed this level of mechanical skill. One shipwreck changed history. That should make us pause. How many discoveries still lie beneath the oceans? How many workshops remain buried beneath modern cities? How many extraordinary inventions vanished simply because nothing survived? Perhaps the Antikythera Mechanism's greatest lesson isn't about technology. It's about memory. Civilizations aren't defined only by what they create. They're defined by what they choose to preserve. And sometimes, the greatest achievements in human history survive only by chance. A message across 20 centuries. More than 100 years have passed since divers first recovered the Antikythera mechanism from the floor of the Mediterranean. And remarkably, the story is still unfolding. Every new generation of technology has revealed something the previous one could not. Powerful X-rays, three-dimensional CT scans, digital reconstructions. Each new discovery has brought us a little closer to understanding the minds that built this extraordinary machine. And yet, some of its secrets remain hidden. 2,000 years later, it is still challenging scientists, still inspiring engineers, still asking questions. It's tempting to think of history as a straight line, that every generation simply becomes more advanced than the one before it. The Antikythera mechanism tells a different story. Knowledge can grow. Knowledge can spread. But knowledge can also disappear. What survives is not always the greatest achievement. Sometimes, it's simply the luckiest. People often describe the Antikythera mechanism as the world's first computer. In many ways, that's true. It transformed mathematical relationships into mechanical motion. It predicted celestial events. It modeled the rhythms of the heavens. But perhaps its greatest achievement wasn't computation. It was curiosity. Someone looked at the night sky and refused to believe it was beyond understanding. Someone believed the universe followed patterns. Someone believed those patterns could be discovered. And then, they built a machine to prove it. That same curiosity still drives us today. It built telescopes that peer across the universe, spacecraft that travel beyond our planets, robots that explore distant worlds, supercomputers that simulate galaxies. The tools have changed, the questions have not. For more than 2,000 years, humanity has continued asking the same question. How does the universe work? The Antikythera Mechanism reminds us that this journey didn't begin with modern science. It began long before us with people whose names have been lost, but whose ideas still endure. Perhaps that's the greatest lesson this remarkable machine has to offer. Civilizations rise, empires fall, libraries burn, knowledge can be forgotten, but curiosity endures. It survives every generation, passed from one questioning mind to the next. The gears of the Antikythera Mechanism stopped turning centuries ago. Human curiosity never did. For nearly 2,000 years, this extraordinary machine rested silently beneath the Mediterranean Sea. Its creator's name was forgotten, its purpose misunderstood, its existence almost erased. Yet today, it has become one of humanity's greatest reminders that the past is often far more sophisticated than we imagine. History is filled with stories waiting to be rediscovered. Some lie beneath the oceans, others beneath the sand. Many are still hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone curious enough to ask the next question, because the greatest discoveries are not always new. Sometimes they are reminders of what humanity once knew. If you enjoyed this journey into one of history's greatest mysteries, subscribe and join us as we uncover more forgotten discoveries that change the course of civilization. Next time, we leave the depths of the Mediterranean for the golden roads of medieval Africa. We'll meet a ruler whose wealth became so legendary that his pilgrimage astonished kingdoms, reshaped economies, and earned him a place among the richest individuals in history. See you in the next episode.